In the year 2467, humanity had ventured far beyond its solar system, becoming a major player in the intergalactic community. Earth, now united under a single government, had developed technologies that allowed them to travel through wormholes and explore the far reaches of the galaxy. Space stations, colonies, and trade routes connected distant star systems, but humans remained a relatively young species in comparison to the ancient civilizations that populated the cosmos. Captain Marcus Steele stood on the bridge of the UEN Resolute, a sleek and powerful human battleship. He was a seasoned officer, having led many missions across the stars, but nothing could have prepared him for the distress signal that had just come through their communication channels. It wasn't human. "Captain, we've received an urgent call from an unknown source," reported Lieutenant Ortega, her fingers flying over the console. It's alien, sir. A fleet stranded near the Helios Nebula." Marcus furrowed his brow. Humanity had encountered several alien species since breaking through to the wider galaxy, but never before had they received such a desperate plea for help. "Patch it through," he ordered, his curiosity piqued. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a humanoid figure with gray skin and luminous blue eyes. It spoke in a language that the ship's universal translator struggled to interpret, but the message was clear. "Help us. Our fleet is stranded, engines failing, resources depleted. We have children." Marcus listened intently, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Lieutenant Ortega, send our response. Let them know we're on our way." "Lieutenant Una, set a course for the Helios Nebula. Full speed." As the crew scrambled to action, Marcus couldn't help but think about the risks. They knew nothing about these aliens, who they were, why they were stranded, or if they posed a threat. But if they truly had children on board, abandoning them wasn't an option. Humanity had a reputation to uphold, and that reputation was built on resilience, compassion, and strength. The Resolute surged through space, its engines roaring as it sped toward the distress signal. Marcus gathered his senior officers in the briefing room to discuss their approach. "We have no idea what we're walking into," said Commander Dahlia Voss, the ship's first officer. "This could be a trap." "It could be," Marcus agreed, "but we've come a long way as a species. We've built alliances, explored unknown regions, and fought our share of battles. If there's even a chance that we can help, we need to take it." Dr. Erin Morrow, the ship's chief medical officer, nodded. "We have supplies and medical personnel ready. If they're in as bad shape as the signal suggested, they'll need our help, Captain." Marcus stood and faced his crew, his voice firm but hopeful. "We'll approach cautiously, but our priority is to offer aid. We're humanity. We don't leave people behind, no matter who they are." The Resolute dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Helios Nebula, and the crew immediately spotted the alien fleet. It consisted of several ships, all of them massive but visibly damaged. They floated in the darkness of space, their once glowing engines dim and flickering. It was a haunting sight. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple life signs on board," reported Lieutenant Ortega. "They're alive, but barely. They're running on emergency power." Marcus activated the ship's external communication system. "This is Captain Marcus Steele of the United Earth Navy. We've come to offer assistance. Please respond." There was a long, tense pause before the alien voice crackled through again. "Thank you. Earth ship, we did not think anyone would come." Marcus exchanged a glance with Commander Voss. "Prepare for boarding operations," he ordered. "Let's see if we can't help get their systems online." A boarding party was quickly assembled, and Marcus, Voss, and Dr. Morrow joined a team of engineers and security officers as they made their way to the alien ship. The interior was dimly lit, with flickering lights and corridors that showed signs of wear and tear. The air was thin, and the atmosphere heavy with despair. They were met by a small group of aliens, all of them weary and gaunt. Their leader, a tall figure with glowing blue eyes and intricate markings on his skin, introduced himself as Sarek. "Your arrival is unexpected," Sarek said, his voice trembling. "We have been drifting here for weeks. Our engines failed after we encountered a meteor storm. We've lost so many." Marcus could see the pain in the alien's eyes, and he felt a surge of empathy. "We're here to help. Our engineers will assist with your repairs, and our medical team will tend to your wounded." Sarek looked at Marcus with something akin to gratitude. "Your people are different from what we were told. We were warned that humans were dangerous." "We're capable of great things," Marcus replied, a faint smile crossing his lips. "But today, we're here to show you the best of what humanity has to offer." As the engineers got to work on repairing the alien ship's engines and restoring power, Dr. Morrow and her team moved through the ship's medical bay, tending to the sick and injured. The aliens, though cautious at first, slowly began to trust their human rescuers. Hours passed, and the atmosphere aboard the alien ship shifted from one of despair to one of hope. The humans worked tirelessly, using their ingenuity to patch together systems that had seemed beyond repair. Sarek watched in amazement as the Resolute crew breathed new life into his dying fleet. "I did not think we would survive this," Sarek admitted as he stood beside Marcus, watching the repairs unfold. Marcus nodded. "Humans have a saying, 'Where there's a will, there's a way.' We don't give up easily." By the end of the day, the alien fleet's engines were back online, and life support systems were fully functional. The aliens, once on the brink of collapse, now had a chance at survival, all thanks to the determination and resilience of the human crew. As the Resolute prepared to depart, Sarek approached Marcus one last time. "Captain Steele, your people have saved us. I cannot express the depth of our gratitude." Marcus clasped Sarek's arm in a gesture of friendship. "You don't need to. This is what we do." The alien fleet, now capable of moving again, slowly drifted away from the nebula, its path clear and its people alive, and as the Resolute turned back toward Earth, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, not just for his crew, but for humanity as a whole. The stars held many challenges, but with ingenuity, resilience, and compassion, humanity would rise to meet them all. The return to Earth. The UEN Resolute sailed smoothly through the void, the stars blurring into streaks of light as they entered hyperspace. Captain Marcus Steele sat in his command chair, the weight of their mission's success settling on him. The alien fleet was safe, for now, but questions lingered in his mind. Who were these aliens really, and why had their journey brought them so close to disaster in the first place? "Captain, we're on course for Earth," reported Lieutenant Una, breaking the silence on the bridge. Marcus nodded, leaning forward. "Good. Maintain steady speed." As the crew went about their duties, the bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. Commander Dahlia Voss approached Marcus, her sharp eyes flicking over the navigation data displayed on the screen. "I have to say, Captain, I'm still uneasy about this whole situation," she admitted, crossing her arms. "Those aliens, Sarek and his people, they were too close to our territory, and they were in worse shape than just a few damaged ships. There's more to their story." Marcus sighed, understanding her concern. "I agree, Commander. We need answers. That's why we're heading back to Earth. Command will want a full debrief, and maybe we can find out more about their fleet." The tension in Voss' expression relaxed slightly, but she remained alert. "I hope you're right. We've opened ourselves up to something unknown here." Hours later, the Resolute emerged from hyperspace near the blue-green orb of Earth. The homeworld had become a symbol of unity and strength in the galaxy, and its massive orbital stations and bustling spaceports were testament to humanity's technological prowess. As the ship approached the UEN headquarters, Marcus stood at the viewport, gazing at the familiar sight of Earth below. It was beautiful, but in the back of his mind, the mystery of Sarek and his fleet gnawed at him. "Prepare for docking," he ordered, turning to Voss, "and alert the crew. Command will want a full report on what we've encountered." The ship smoothly docked with the space station, and within minutes, Marcus, Voss, and Dr. Morrow were escorted to the central briefing chamber. Waiting for them was Admiral Grace Connolly, the stern yet fair commander of the UEN's interstellar operations. "Captain Steele," Admiral Connolly greeted him with a nod. "Your mission was a success, I hear." Marcus straightened. "Yes, Admiral. The alien fleet was stranded near the Helios Nebula. We managed to repair their ships and stabilize their life support systems. But there's more to their situation than we originally thought. They weren't just stranded. They were fleeing from something. Admiral Connolly's expression darkened. Fleeing? Did they say what? No, Marcus replied, shaking his head. Their leader, Sarek, wasn't exactly forthcoming with details. He seemed cautious, as if there's something he's not telling us. But from what we gathered, they were caught in a meteor storm, which disabled their engines. They lost a lot of people before we arrived. Connolly leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled. And you believe their distress signal was genuine? Do, Marcus answered without hesitation. They were on the brink of collapse when we found them. If we hadn't intervened, they wouldn't have lasted much longer. But I also believe they're hiding something about why they were out there in the first place. Dr. Morrow stepped forward. Their condition was dire, Admiral. Many of their people were malnourished and suffering from long-term exposure to deteriorating conditions. They were not prepared for the environment they were in, and it's possible their situation was much worse than they let on. Admiral Connolly regarded them thoughtfully. Very well. We'll need to investigate further. For now, your actions have saved lives and upheld our values as a species. Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of relief. Thank you, Admiral. Before they could leave, Connolly added, Captain, we're going to send a diplomatic envoy to follow up with Sarek's fleet. I want you and your crew to be prepared for a second mission. We need to understand who they are, and more importantly, who or what they were fleeing from. Back on the Resolute, the crew resumed their routines, but a sense of anticipation filled the air. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was just the beginning of something much larger. The galaxy was vast, and though humanity had made incredible strides in space exploration, there were still countless mysteries out there, some of them dangerous. As Marcus stood on the bridge, gazing out at the stars, Lieutenant Ortega approached him with a transmission. Captain, we've received a message from the alien fleet. It's Sarek. Marcus activated the holographic display, and Sarek's weary face appeared once again. Captain Steele, I must speak with you. There is something you need to know, something we could not tell you before. Marcus' heart quickened. What is it, Sarek? The alien leader hesitated for a moment, his glowing eyes flickering with unease. We were not simply fleeing a meteor storm. We were fleeing an enemy, a force so powerful that even our most advanced technology could not withstand them. They are relentless. Marcus exchanged a glance with Voss, who was standing nearby. What kind of enemy, Sarek? Who are they? Sarek's voice dropped to a near whisper. They are the Zenith. The word sent a chill through the air. Marcus had never heard of the Zenith, but the way Sarek spoke the name made it clear. This was no ordinary threat. They are conquerors, Sarek continued. They sweep across the galaxy, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. We barely escaped, but many others were not so lucky. And now, they are coming. The transmission cut out, leaving Marcus and his crew in stunned silence. The implications were staggering. If the Zenith were as powerful as Sarek suggested, humanity could soon find itself facing an enemy unlike any it had encountered before. We need to inform command, Marcus said, his voice firm. If the Zenith are heading our way, Earth must be ready. Lost nodded in agreement. This changes everything, Captain. We may have just become part of a war we never saw coming. Marcus stared at the stars beyond the viewport, his mind racing. Humanity had always been resilient, always rising to face new challenges. But this time, the stakes were higher than ever. Prepare the ship, he ordered. We're not going to wait for the Zenith to come to us. We're going to meet them head-on. The Zenith threat. The Resolute moved into position, orbiting Earth like a silent sentinel. On board, preparations for their next mission were already in full swing. Captain Marcus Steele stood at the center of the command deck, briefing his senior officers. The news of the Zenith, a mysterious and dangerous alien force, had shaken the crew, but it had also solidified their resolve. This is the situation, Marcus began, projecting the image of Sarek's fleet on the holographic display. Sarek claims they were fleeing the Zenith, an alien species unlike any we've encountered before. According to him, they are conquerors, unstoppable, relentless, and now they may be coming for us. The crew listened in grim silence. Commander Voss, as always, was the first to speak up. "How reliable is this intel, Captain? Sarek's people have been secretive from the start. Can we trust them?" Marcus turned to her. "We don't have any reason to believe he's lying, Commander. His fleet was nearly destroyed, and they've clearly been through a lot. But you're right, we need more information before we make any big moves. That's why we're heading to the UEN diplomatic hub. Command wants us to meet with the Council of the Allied Systems. We need to prepare for whatever is coming." Lieutenant Yuna, standing by the communication panel, looked over. "Captain, if the Zenith are as powerful as Sarek claims, can we even hope to defend ourselves?" A heavy silence followed her question, but Marcus met her gaze, his voice steady. "Humanity has faced impossible odds before, and every time we've adapted. We won't let fear rule us, Yuna. We'll prepare, and we'll fight if we have to. But first, we need to learn everything we can about this enemy." Yuna nodded, reassured by his confidence, and Marcus turned to the crew. "Our next mission is to make contact with the Council and establish a coalition. We won't face this threat alone." The diplomatic hub orbiting the neutral world of Varus was a sprawling structure, hosting representatives from countless species across the galaxy. As the Resolute docked, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. The Council of the Allied Systems had been formed decades earlier to maintain peace and stability, and it was now their best hope for building an alliance against the Zenith. Walking through the station's sleek corridors, Marcus, Voss, and Dr. Morrow were greeted by UEN Ambassador Rena Ward, a seasoned diplomat with a sharp mind and a reputation for cutting through political red tape. "Captain Steele," Ambassador Ward said with a formal nod, "the Council is assembled and awaiting your briefing. Sarek's warning has been taken seriously, but there's skepticism. We'll need to present this carefully." Marcus nodded. "Understood. I'll do my best to make sure they grasp the gravity of the situation." The group entered the council chamber, where representatives from over a dozen species sat in circular tiers. In the center was a holographic display showing the known regions of space. At the far edge, a faint red zone marked the edge of Zenith-controlled space. As Marcus began his presentation, he could sense the tension in the room. The other species had no love for war, and many had never even heard of the Zenith. But as the captain described the horrors Sarek's fleet had encountered, the destruction of entire worlds, the precision with which the Zenith struck, he could see the mood shifting. "This enemy doesn't just conquer," Marcus explained, his voice steady but urgent. "They annihilate. According to Sarek, the Zenith leave nothing but ruins in their wake. We cannot afford to be unprepared when they arrive at our doorstep." One of the council members, a tall insectoid being named Salton, clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. "Captain Steele, we faced threats before, but your description of the Zenith suggests they possess far greater military power than we do. What makes you believe we can stand against them?" Marcus glanced at Dr. Morrow, who stepped forward. "What we've learned about the Zenith so far suggests they rely on overwhelming force and fear to dominate their enemies. But humanity has always thrived on adaptability. We've faced superior foes before and won by using creativity and ingenuity. We believe an alliance with your species could give us a fighting chance." Another counselor, representing the Regelians, a race known for their technological prowess, leaned forward. "You ask us to prepare for war against an unknown enemy. If we join forces with humanity, will we be dragged into a conflict that might not even reach us?" Before Marcus could respond, the doors of the chamber slid open, and Sarek entered, flanked by two of his officers. The council members turned, surprised by the sudden entrance. Sarek's appearance had changed since their last meeting. His once regal bearing was now clouded with fatigue, and his eyes glowed with a grim determination. "I apologize for the interruption," Sarek said, his voice carrying through the room. "But you need to hear this from someone who has seen the Zenith firsthand. They are coming, and they will not stop until everything you know is ash." Sarek stepped forward, his gaze sweeping across the council. My fleet barely escaped with our lives. We fought them with all our strength, and it wasn't enough. If you choose not to act now, it won't be just my people who suffer. It will be all of you." The room fell into silence once more, but this time the weight of Sarek's words seemed to penetrate the councilor's doubts. After a moment, Ambassador Ward rose to address the council. "We face an uncertain future," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "But in times like these, we must stand together. Humanity is prepared to fight, and with your help, we can present a united front against this threat. The choice is yours." There was a long pause as the councilors exchanged glances, deliberating silently. Then, one by one, they began to nod in agreement. "The Regelians will join your coalition," the Regelian councilor declared. "As will the Thrivians," added Salton. Other species soon followed, pledging their support to the emerging alliance. Marcus felt a sense of relief, but he knew this was just the beginning. Later, back aboard the Resolute, Marcus gathered his crew for one final briefing before they set out again. The Zenith threat loomed larger than ever, but now they had allies, resources, and a plan. "We've secured the alliance," Marcus told them, standing tall in front of the assembled officers. "But this fight won't be easy. The Zenith are powerful, and they won't stop until we make them stop. But humanity is ready. The galaxy is ready." Voss nodded, her expression hard but resolute. "We'll give them a fight they'll never forget." Marcus looked around the room, seeing the determination on every face. "Prepare the ship. We're heading to the outer colonies. It's time we showed the Zenith what humanity is made of." The Battle of the Outer Colonies. The Resolute searched through the stars, cutting through the vastness of space as it made its way to the outer colonies. These settlements, scattered across the edge of human-controlled space, were the first line of defense against the Zenith. But they were vulnerable. Their only chance was the newly formed alliance, spearheaded by the United Earth Navy. As they neared the first colony, New Horizon, the ship's sensors began to detect something troubling. Marcus stood on the command deck, his eyes fixed on the data streaming in. "Commander Voss, what are we seeing?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. Voss scanned the information. "Multiple ships inbound, Captain. I can't confirm their origin yet, but—" She paused, her face darkening. "They're moving fast, and they're headed straight for New Horizon." Marcus felt a knot tighten in his chest. "Zenith?" "Most likely," Voss replied grimly. The Resolute wasn't alone. A small fleet of allied ships, including Rigelian and Thrivian warships, had joined them on their journey. But even with this coalition, they would be hard-pressed to stand against a full-scale Zenith assault. "We need to warn the colony," Lieutenant Una said urgently. "They won't stand a chance if the Zenith hit them without warning." Marcus nodded. "Open a channel." Una quickly tapped into the communication system, and soon the image of Governor Elise Morgan of New Horizon appeared on the screen. She looked calm but wary. "Captain Steele," she greeted, "I assume you're here because of the Zenith." Marcus wasted no time. "Governor, we've detected hostile ships approaching your colony. They'll be in range within hours. We need to begin evacuation procedures immediately." Governor Morgan's face hardened. "Understood. We've been preparing for this. Our defense systems are limited, but we'll do what we can to hold them off while civilians are evacuated." "We'll do everything in our power to protect you," Marcus assured her. "But you need to move fast." Morgan nodded, her expression resolute. "We're on it. And Captain, thank you. I know this isn't just our fight." The screen blinked off, and Marcus turned back to his crew. "Prepare for combat. We're not going to let the Zenith destroy that colony." The Allied fleet moved into defensive positions around New Horizon, their weapons systems primed and ready. As the moments ticked by, the tension aboard the Resolute grew thick. Marcus could feel it in the air, the quiet before the storm. Suddenly, the sensors flared to life. "They're here," Voss announced, her voice sharp. On the main display, a swarm of Zenith ships emerged from the blackness of space. Sleek, angular, and ominous, they moved with terrifying speed and coordination. There were dozens of them, ranging from small fighters to hulking capital ships that dwarfed even the largest of the Allied vessels. Battle stations, Marcus ordered. The Resolute and the Allied fleet opened fire as the Zenith ships surged forward. Bright streaks of plasma and energy lanced across the void, lighting up the darkness. The battle had begun. Zenith fighters darted between the larger ships, their movements swift and precise. They targeted the Allied vessels with brutal efficiency, sending wave after wave of missiles and energy blasts at their foes. "Shields at 80%, shouted Lieutenant Una as the Resolute rocked from the impact of enemy fire. Marcus gripped the edge of his command console. "Return fire. Focus on the fighters. Keep them off the larger ships." The Resolute's guns roared to life, unleashing a barrage of fire that tore through the enemy formation. A Zenith fighter exploded in a brilliant flash, but there were more to take its place. Across the fleet, the Regellian and Thrivian ships were holding their own, but the Zenith's overwhelming numbers were taking a toll. One by one, Allied vessels began to take damage, their shields flickering under the relentless assault. "We're losing the Thrivian spear," Commander Voss reported. "She's venting atmosphere." Marcus cursed under his breath. "Tell them to fall back and regroup. We need to buy time for the colony to evacuate." As the battle raged on, Marcus' eyes flicked to the display showing the colony below. New Horizons evacuation was proceeding, but it wasn't fast enough. The Zenith capital ships were drawing closer, and if they got within range, the colony would be annihilated. "We need to hit those capital ships before they can fire on the surface," Marcus said, his mind racing. "Commander Voss, prepare a strike team. We're going after their command vessel." Voss raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure about this, Captain? That's a suicide mission." Marcus met her gaze, his expression hard. "If we don't take out their command ship, the colony is lost. We don't have a choice." Voss nodded. "Understood. I'll have the team ready." Minutes later, Marcus, Voss, and a hand-picked team of Marines boarded a shuttle and launched from the Resolute, heading straight for the heart of the Zenith fleet. Their target, the massive command ship that loomed like a dark, predatory beast at the center of the enemy formation. As they weaved through the chaos of battle, dodging enemy fire, Marcus could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on him. They had one chance to pull this off. If they failed, the colony and countless lives would be lost. The shuttle landed with a jarring thud in one of the command ship's hangars. The team quickly disembarked, weapons at the ready. "Move fast, stay sharp," Marcus ordered as they advanced through the eerie corridors of the alien vessel. The ship's interior was dark and foreboding, lit only by the dim glow of alien symbols etched into the walls. They encountered Zenith soldiers along the way, tall, angular beings with sleek, metallic armor. The firefights were brutal and swift, but Marcus' team pushed forward with determination, cutting their way through the enemy. Finally, they reached the command center. Inside, a massive Zenith commander stood at the center of the room, overseeing the battle. It turned to face them, its eyes glowing with a cold, alien intelligence. Without hesitation, Marcus raised his weapon and fired. Back aboard the Resolute, the crew watched anxiously as the Zenith fleet began to falter. Moments after Marcus and his team disabled the command ship, the enemy formation broke apart. Their coordination, once flawless, now crumbled under the pressure. "The Zenith are retreating," Yuta announced, her voice filled with relief. A cheer erupted across the bridge, but Marcus wasn't celebrating yet. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Zenith had been driven back today, but they would return, stronger, deadlier, and humanity would be ready. Humanity's counterattack. The Resolute drifted among the wreckage of the battle, its once gleaming hull now scared from the fight. Around it, the remains of both Zenith and Allied ships floated in the void, testament to the brutal skirmish over New Horizon. But the colony was safe, and humanity, for the moment, had survived. Marcus stood on the bridge, exhaustion weighing on him as the adrenaline of battle finally began to fade. The Zenith had been pushed back, but he knew they had only seen the beginning of the conflict. Now was the time to strike back, while the enemy was reeling. "Captain, we've received a transmission from High Command," Lieutenant Una said, her voice cutting through the silence. "It's Admiral Grayson." Marcus nodded. "Put her through." The main display flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Admiral Grayson. She was one of the highest-ranking officers in the United Earth Navy, and Marcus could see the weight of the war reflected in her hardened expression. "Captain Steele, you've done well," Grayson began without preamble. "Your actions at New Horizon have given us a much-needed victory, but we can't afford to rest. Our intelligence suggests the Zenith are regrouping at a key staging ground in the Vorta Nebula. If we can strike there, we can cripple their ability to launch another attack on the colonies." Marcus straightened. "Understood, Admiral. We'll prepare for immediate departure." Grayson's eyes narrowed slightly. "This won't be like the last battle, Captain. The Zenith will be expecting us this time. We're sending a combined fleet, human, Regalian, and Thrivian, to lead the assault. You'll be at the forefront." Marcus felt a surge of resolve. "We're ready." The Admiral gave a curt nod. "Good. Remember, Captain, we're fighting for the survival of all sentient life. There's no room for hesitation. Grayson out." As the transmission ended, Marcus turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Prepare the ship for battle. We head for the Vorta Nebula at once." The Vorta Nebula was a vast, swirling cloud of gas and energy, beautiful yet deadly. It had long been avoided by human ships due to the instability of the region, but it provided perfect cover for the Zenith forces, allowing them to strike without warning and disappear before counterattacks could be launched. The combined fleet arrived on the edge of the nebula, an imposing armada of ships from across the galaxy. Human battleships, Regalian destroyers, and Thrivian cruisers formed a formidable line, each one bristling with weapons and shields. At their heart was the Resolute, now fully repaired and ready for the next engagement. Marcus stood on the bridge, staring out at the glowing mass of the nebula before them. Somewhere in that swirling cloud, the Zenith were waiting. "Captain," Commander Voss said, her voice steady, "the fleet is in position. We're ready to begin the assault." Marcus nodded. "All ships, move into attack formation. We'll lead the charge." The fleet surged forward, entering the nebula's outer layers. Immediately, the ship's sensors were bombarded with interference, the electromagnetic storms within the nebula playing havoc with their systems. "Shields holding steady," Una reported, her fingers flying over her console. "But we're blind in here. We won't see them until they're right on top of us." "Stay sharp," Marcus ordered. "They'll try to use the nebula's interference to their advantage." Minutes passed in tense silence as the fleet pressed deeper into the nebula, the glowing clouds of gas swirling around them. Then, without warning, the Zenith struck. A wave of enemy ships emerged from the nebula, their sleek, angular forms cutting through the mist. They opened fire immediately, bright lances of plasma streaking toward the Allied fleet. "Evasive maneuvers," Marcus shouted as the Resolute shook under the impact of the first volley. The battle erupted into chaos. In the tight confines of the nebula, the two fleets clashed at close range, exchanging fire at point-blank distances. Zenith fighters swarmed around the larger ships, their speed and agility making them difficult targets, while the massive Zenith capital ships unleashed devastating broadsides against the human and Regalian warships. The Resolute weaved through the battlefield, its weapons firing in all directions as it dodged and countered the enemy's attacks. But despite their best efforts, the Zenith were proving to be even more formidable than before. "They're better organized this time," Voss observed grimly as she fired at another wave of fighters. "They've learned from their defeat at New Horizon." Marcus gritted his teeth. "Then we'll have to be smarter." He scanned the tactical display, his mind racing as he searched for an opening. The Zenith were strong, but they were still relying on their superior numbers and firepower to overwhelm the Allied fleet. If they could disrupt that, there, Marcus pointed to the largest of the Zenith capital ships, its hulking form looming in the distance. "That's their command ship. If we take it out, the rest of their fleet will crumble." Commander Voss raised an eyebrow. "Another command ship assault, Captain." Marcus smirked. "Worked last time, didn't it?" Voss nodded, a determined gleam in her eye. Let's do it. The Resolute and a small squadron of Allied ships broke off from the main fleet, heading straight for the Zenith command ship. The massive vessel was flanked by several escort ships, but Marcus was counting on the chaos of the battle to mask their approach. As they closed in, the Zenith ships began to open fire, but the Resolute and its escorts returned fire with precision, taking out the smaller vessels one by one. "Target their engines," Marcus ordered. "We need to slow them down." The Resolute's guns blazed to life, sending a barrage of fire at the command ship's engines. The impact sent a ripple through the massive vessel, causing it to slow, but it wasn't enough. "They're still moving," Una called out. "Then we get closer," Marcus said. "Prepare to board." The Resolute surged forward, closing the distance between itself and the Zenith command ship. As it approached, Marcus knew this would be the moment that decided the battle. If they succeeded, the Zenith fleet would be broken. If they failed, there might not be another chance. "Boarding team ready," Voss said, her voice steady. Marcus took a deep breath. "Let's finish this." The final stand. The Resolute clamped onto the Zenith command ship with a heavy thud, the boarding tubes extending and locking into place. Marcus stood with the assault team, his heart pounding as the airlock cycled open. For the second time in days, he was about to lead his crew into the belly of a Zenith ship. This time, however, there was no guarantee of rescue, only victory or defeat. "Stay sharp," Marcus said to his team, gripping his pulse rifle tightly. "This is their nerve center. Expect heavy resistance." "Commander," Voss nodded beside him, her own rifle ready. "We'll carve a path." The doors opened, and immediately the team was met with a hail of enemy fire. Zenith soldiers, their armored forms sleek and insectoid, moved with deadly precision. Marcus and his team returned fire, advancing steadily down the corridor. The air was thick with tension and the acrid scent of burning metal as plasma bolts ricocheted off the walls. "They fortified the main deck," Voss shouted over the din of combat. "They're trying to keep us from reaching the bridge." Marcus surveyed the chaotic scene. They were outnumbered, and the narrow corridors of the Zenith ship gave the enemy an advantage. But they couldn't turn back now. If they didn't reach the bridge and disable the command ship, the Zenith fleet would regroup and crush the Allied forces outside. "We need to flank them," Marcus said, his mind racing. "Una, can you access their internal systems from here?" Una crouched by a terminal, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "Give me a second." "Got it. There's a secondary maintenance route that runs parallel to this corridor. It'll take us right to the bridge." Marcus grinned. "Perfect. Lead the way." The team moved quickly, slipping into the maintenance tunnels as the battle raged behind them. The cramped space forced them to move in single file, but it gave them a clear path toward their objective. Marcus could feel the tension building as they drew closer to the Zenith command center. This was it, the heart of the enemy's war machine. As they approached the final bulkhead, Marcus signaled for the team to stop. He pressed his ear to the wall, listening for movement on the other side. It was eerily quiet, which only made him more suspicious. "They're waiting for us," he whispered. "Get ready." Voss nodded, gripping her weapon tightly. The team took up defensive positions as Marcus accessed the control panel and prepared to breach the door. With a deep breath, he hit the switch. The bulkhead slid open, and the team stormed into the command bridge. Zenith officers, clad in intricate battle armor, whirled around in surprise, but they reacted quickly. Plasma bolts filled the air as the battle erupted into a brutal, close-quarters fight. "Take out their command systems," Marcus shouted, ducking behind cover as a burst of enemy fire streaked past. "We need to disable their fleet coordination." Voss and Una focused their fire on the control consoles, while the rest of the team provided covering fire. Marcus fought his way through the chaos, his pulse rifle spitting rounds as he advanced toward the central command platform. There, standing tall in the center of the bridge, was the Zenith fleet commander. Unlike the other Zenith soldiers, this one was massive, easily twice the size of the others, with an aura of authority that radiated from its every movement. Its multi-limbed form shimmered with energy as it turned to face Marcus, its eyes glowing with cold, calculating malice. "You are too late, human," the Zenith commander hissed in a guttural tone. "Your defiance is futile." Marcus leveled his rifle at the creature. "We'll see about that." The commander moved with astonishing speed, dodging Marcus's first volley and closing the distance between them in an instant. Marcus barely had time to react as the creature's blade-like limbs slashed toward him. He dodged to the side, feeling the razor-sharp edge graze his armor. "Voss, keep the others busy," Marcus shouted, narrowly avoiding another strike. "I've got this one." The commander was relentless, its movements precise and deadly. But Marcus was faster, using his agility to stay one step ahead. As the two clashed, the battle around them continued to rage, the sounds of explosions and weapons fire echoing through the bridge. Marcus knew he had to end this quickly. The longer the fight dragged on, the more his crew would be exposed to danger. He feinted to the left, drawing the commander into a predictable attack, then ducked low and fired a point-blank shot into its side. The creature howled in pain, staggering back. Seeing his opening, Marcus charged forward, delivering a powerful strike with the butt of his rifle to the commander's head. The Zenith staggered again, its glowing eyes flickering as it struggled to recover. "This is for New Horizon," Marcus said, driving his blade into the creature's chest. The Zenith commander let out one final guttural hiss before collapsing to the floor, its body twitching as the energy drained from its form. Marcus stood over it, breathing heavily. The bridge fell silent, save for the hum of the ship's systems. "We did it," Voss said, stepping up beside him. "The command ship is ours." Marcus nodded, his heart still racing. "Get me a line to the fleet." Una worked quickly, and moments later, the fleet commander's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain Steele, the Zenith forces are breaking off. Their ships are in disarray. What's your status?" "We've taken the command ship," Marcus replied, looking around at the wreckage of the bridge. "The Zenith fleet is crippled." Cheers erupted over the comms, and Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of relief, but he knew this wasn't over yet. "We need to push the advantage," he said, turning to Voss. "This is our chance to end the war." The Resolute floated amidst the remnants of the Zenith fleet, the once formidable alien armada now reduced to scattered debris and fleeing ships. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Zenith command ship, watching as the human and allied forces surged forward to finish the job. He had never imagined that they would come this far, or that humanity would be the one to turn the tide of a galactic war. "The Zenith are in full retreat," Una said, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. "Their remaining forces are breaking apart." Marcus exhaled slowly, the tension that had gripped him since they'd entered Zenith space finally beginning to ease. "It's over." "Almost," Commander Voss said, standing by his side. "We still need to clean up the stragglers and make sure they don't regroup." "They won't," Marcus said with confidence. "Not after this. The Zenith have lost their fleet, their leader, and their control over this region. They'll be too busy trying to recover." Voss nodded, her expression softening. "You did it, Marcus. We all did." Marcus allowed himself a small smile. It had been a long and bloody campaign, but they had survived, and more than that, they had won. The galaxy was a different place now, and humanity had earned its place among the stars. As the fleet secured the remaining Zenith vessels, Marcus' thoughts drifted to the survivors of New Horizon. The lives that had been lost, the homes that had been destroyed. It had all seemed so hopeless back then. But now, standing on the bridge of a conquered enemy ship, with the Zenith in full retreat, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. "This is the beginning of something new," he said quietly, almost to himself. Voss glanced at him. "What do you mean?" "Humanity has always been the underdog, the species struggling to survive in a galaxy filled with stronger, more advanced civilizations. But now we've proven ourselves. We've shown that we're capable of more than anyone expected." Una turned from her station, a look of quiet pride on her face. "We didn't just survive. We thrived. And now the galaxy will know who we are." Marcus nodded, his gaze sweeping over the battle-scared bridge. The Zenith were supposed to be unbeatable, but we stood up to them. We refused to back down, even when the odds were against us. Voss chuckled softly. Typical human stubbornness. Marcus grinned. Maybe that's our greatest strength. As the last of the Zenith ships disappeared into hyperspace, Marcus turned to his crew. "We're going home." The words sent a wave of emotion through the bridge. For so long, they had been focused on the fight, on survival. But now, they could finally return to Earth, victorious. "Set a course for Earth," Marcus ordered, his voice filled with determination. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." The journey home was a blur of repairs, debriefs, and quiet reflection. The Resolute and its allies had emerged battered but unbroken, a testament to the strength of their resolve. As they neared Earth, Marcus found himself standing on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. "Captain," Yuna's voice came through the comm, breaking the silence. "We're approaching Earth's orbit." Marcus took a deep breath and turned to leave. "I'll be right there." When he arrived on the bridge, the view took his breath away. Earth, shining like a jewel in the vastness of space, its blue oceans and green continents a stark contrast to the endless black void surrounding it. It was home, and it had never looked more beautiful. "We're receiving a transmission from Earth's command," Voss said, her voice tinged with excitement. "They're welcoming us back." Marcus smiled, his chest swelling with pride. "Let's give them something to celebrate." As the fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, Marcus watched the view screen, seeing the cities below light up in a cascade of celebration. News of their victory had already spread, and the entire planet was rejoicing. Fireworks lit up the night sky, and people filled the streets, cheering for the heroes who had returned. Marcus stood tall on the bridge, his crew around him, knowing that this was more than just a personal victory. This was a victory for all of humanity, a victory that would resonate across the stars. "We've done it," said softly, standing beside him. "We've shown them what we're capable of." Marcus nodded, his eyes fixed on the planet below. "This is just the beginning." Back on Earth, a ceremony was held to honor the heroes of the battle. The leaders of the United Earth Alliance, alongside representatives from the allied species, stood before a massive crowd as Marcus and his crew were presented with medals of valor. "You have shown the galaxy what humanity can achieve," the UEA president said, her voice ringing out across the plaza. "Against overwhelming odds, you led the charge. You fought not just for Earth, but for the freedom of all sentient beings." The crowd erupted into cheers, and Marcus felt a wave of pride wash over him. He had never sought glory, but in this moment, he realized just how far they had come, how far humanity had come. As the ceremony ended and the crowd dispersed, Marcus found himself standing on the balcony of the UEA headquarters, looking out over the city. The stars above seemed brighter, more inviting. The universe, once so vast and intimidating, now felt like a place of possibility. "We're going back out there, aren't we?" Voss asked, stepping up beside him. Marcus smiled. "Of course we are. There's so much more to explore, so much more to achieve." Voss grinned. "You never stop, do you?" "No," Marcus said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "And neither will humanity." The galaxy had changed. The Zenith were in retreat, their empire crumbling. The other species of the galaxy had taken notice, and alliances were forming, new friendships blossoming in the wake of the war. But more than that, the name humanity now carried weight. Respect. Even fear. The journey wasn't over. There were still challenges to face, enemies to defeat, and mysteries to uncover. But for the first time in history, humanity wasn't just a species fighting for survival. They were explorers. They were creators. They were warriors. And now, they were the ones the galaxy would never forget.